Facemask.
What's going on, everybody? It's Nick Payne with another episode of Facemask Fantasy. Before I begin, just want to let everybody know our 2021 Shallow League Redraft draft plan is available on our website for the next couple of weeks before the season begins. You can go to our webpage, facemaskpod.com. You enter your email address, and you will get a downloadable link to the plan, which is 100% free. I just updated it again a short while ago, so again, you are getting the most up-to-date information as the rest of the preseason unfolds. I have player breakdowns in there, positional breakdowns by tier, guys I'm targeting, guys I think you should consider fading at their ADP. Plenty of information for you to go in, attack your draft, and come away with a solid foundation for the 2021 season. We will make sure we have the most up-to-date information for you before your 10 or 12 team league draft. Check it out. Now, on to today's topic, continuing to profile players for the 2021 fantasy football season. Up today, Mark Andrews, tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. Andrews finished 2020 as a top 5 tight end, but one, that in and of itself is not necessarily an impressive feat. And two, as it turns out, it does sound better than it actually is without context. Andrews had double-digit fantasy points 5 times in 2020. 3 of those games came in the first 5 weeks. He had a solid week 15 in the fantasy playoffs, but outside of that, Andrews was very up and down, did not have as good of a season as he did in 2019. He had 5 games where he scored fewer than 5 fantasy points. That's just not going to cut it. His ADP was somewhere around the end of the 4th round last year. Simply put, the price that you paid for Andrews in 2020 was not worth it. And his price in 2021 reflects that. He's fallen about a round and a half as far as ADP relative to last year. For me personally, I've not really been high on Andrews this offseason. The Ravens added multiple weapons in the draft and free agency, even though after all of the moves, I would still have called Andrews the top option in the passing game for the Ravens. But that doesn't mean I was targeting him. I like the receivers at their ADP until they all got injured. Rashad Bateman had core muscle surgery. He's going to miss probably a few games to start the season. Marquise Brown has been dealing with a hamstring injury, has now missed 4 straight weeks of practice. He still has some time before the season to get it right, but hamstring injuries in the preseason are usually not a good sign. They often leak into the regular season. So I went from being interested in Marquise Brown to completely out. And Sammy Watkins, who is free, but still should be a big part of this Ravens wide receiver core, he picked up an injury. So the Ravens are really reeling at wideout right now, which means the likelihood for Mark Andrews to be a bit of a target hog to start the season has gone up. If you've listened to me on this program, you've heard me tout Lamar Jackson as a thrower of the football. And on top of that, he has been my favorite to finish this year as the overall QB1 for fantasy. The injuries to his wide receivers is obviously going to make that a more difficult challenge. But as far as throwing it, Andrews never stopped being the top option in the passing game, and now it's going to be even more so the case if the Ravens come into the start of the season down multiple guys at wide receiver. I think Lamar is likely to key on Andrews. I think he's going to focus on him. I think he's going to get him involved in the offense early and often to start this year. The difference between this year and last is you hope that it carries over with a little bit more week-to-week consistency. Remember, Andrews started out 2020 on fire, caught 2 touchdowns in the opener, had another 2-touchdown game a couple weeks later. The start wasn't his problem. It was the week-to-week consistency, and there was a midseason stretch where he really did not provide anything. So he's going to get another opportunity again to start the season hot as a target hog. Will he be able to carry that consistency week to week this year? That will determine if his ADP in the 6th round, while a discount from last year, is worth it. His ADP has taken a slight bump over TJ Hawkinson. I don't really like that. And I guess that kind of sums up where I'm at with Mark Andrews. I'm more interested now than I was a month ago. For the first 2 or 3 games, Andrews should command 8-9 targets a game if the Ravens are down multiple weapons. But despite these recent developments, I'm not moving Andrews over any of his counterparts at tight end. I'm not moving him ahead of TJ Hawkinson. I'm not moving him ahead of Kyle Pitts. I'm certainly not moving him ahead of any of the big 3 names. And I don't think I would give him that much of a bump in ADP. There are some middling running backs that that are getting drafted around that area. So I would consider Andrews over them. Wide receivers like Odell Beckham, who I just don't believe in anymore, or Robbie Anderson, who I can't quite seem to get totally on board with in 2021. Yeah, I would take Andrews over those guys. So he's getting a slight bump relative to the players around him, but not the tight ends themselves. If the tight ends in the draft go high, let's say Pitts goes higher than expected, maybe Hawkinson goes higher than expected. If Andrews is sitting there in the 6th round and maybe some of those guys that I mentioned are my alternative options, yeah, I'll take Mark Andrews because he should start off the season strong. And then from there, at the very least, he should have season-long trade appeal because tight end remains a barren wasteland. I guess at the end of the day, I'm still a little leery of the week-to-week consistency because I do think Lamar spreads the ball around a little bit if and when his guys are healthy. So maybe Mark Andrews becomes a little more volatile mid-season, but he should remain a touchdown threat every week. And Andrews is one of those few tight ends who is good enough to give you more than just a touchdown. So I see the appeal. I'm moving him up slightly in my overall rankings, and I'm giving his ADP a slight bump, but I would not go ballistic. I would not go reach for Andrews just because of this news. If you like Andrews and maybe you get a chance to stack with Lamar, at this point, I would sign off on that. I would say that works for me, given the fact that he should be a target hog to begin the season. I will go on record and say I'm still not totally 100% on board with Andrews' potential week-to-week consistency for 2021. The 6th round ADP compared to 2020's 4th round ADP obviously makes Andrews a bit of a discount this year, but if at a discount, I'm still getting weeks here and there from my tight end where he scores 5 fantasy points or fewer, I'm not going to feel great about plunging that high draft capital into a tight end. What do you guys think? Put your thoughts about Mark Andrews in the comment section below, and we can have a conversation about this. Till then, this is Nick Payne with Facemask Fantasy, producing fantasy content for you each and every day. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening.